Cari, welcome to the program.
Hi, Matt. How are you?
Yeah, doing great. Well, Cari, this Hydrus Microstent is making waves worldwide with news of acquisition by Alcon. So I've got some questions here for you. The Hydrus Microstent has unique architecture compared to other glaucoma stents. Can you describe the architecture a bit for me?
Sure, absolutely, Matt. The Hydrus Microstent is really unique in that it has a trimodal mechanism of action. So it dilates and scaffolds the canal. It also maintains outflow through the trabecular meshwork into the anterior chamber. And it spans 90 degrees of the canal and provides access to multiple collector channels. And that's really how it's different from other stents on the market.
Shunts have been available in the market for some time. Why is Alcon acquiring this technology now from your point of view?
The Hydrus Microstent is the only stent on the market that has 5 years of safety and efficacy data. And that's unmatched by any product. And as you know, Alcon is very invested in data and in research. This product, we followed up to 5 years before we made the acquisition. So that was a very important calculus on our part, was that there was 5 years of pivotal data behind this product before we acquired it and put it under our name.
Okay, that's a great point. Now, what is the plan for the shunt internationally and in Asia Pacific specifically?
Great question. So as you know, right now it is commercially available in the United States for combo cataract surgery. And Hydrus is also approved in 4 other countries. So in Canada, Singapore, Australia, the UK, and Germany. But Alcon intends to use its large commercial, regulatory, and R&D footprint to bring this product to additional markets worldwide. And Asia is definitely high on our radar because of the size of the glaucoma population and the regulatory and reimbursement environment. The Asian countries are definitely top of our priority list.
I see in some cases, such as at the upcoming Australia-New Zealand meeting, RANSCO, Ivantis still has a standalone booth. So I was wondering, is it retaining an independent identity from Alcon?
No, that should be merged with the Alcon booth. So we will be putting the Alcon branding on everything Ivantis, and the Hydrus Microstent will be sold under the Alcon umbrella going forward.
Cari, talk to me about Hydrus used at the time of cataract surgery versus as a standalone device.
The vast majority of procedures today for Hydrus and many other MIGS stents are being performed at the time of cataract surgery. And that's largely because 1 in every 5 patients that's on the table for a cataract procedure will have glaucoma. And you have the opportunity at that time of cataract surgery to give a patient a MIGS device. And we believe firmly that with the data that Hydrus has, that at that one shot, that one opportunity a patient has to get a MIGS device when they're undergoing cataract surgery, that they deserve the product that's backed by the largest body of data and by evidence. And so that is where the vast majority of procedures today are being performed. But where the market's going and where some of the opportunity is, not just in the United States, but outside the United States, is in standalone. So as you can imagine, patients who are on maximum tolerated medical therapy, they're on 2 drops, they're on 3 drops, and their glaucoma is uncontrolled, there's a huge opportunity here for MIGS products like Hydrus to be used in standalone procedures to get patients off drops and really improve the compliance burden patients have.
Why do you think the Hydrus will succeed as an Alcon glaucoma shunt instead of fail as CyPass had?
So very different anatomical spaces that these 2 products are playing in. So Hydrus is a TM stent. CyPass played in the suprachoroidal space. CyPass had issues with endothelial cell loss, and that's ultimately why Alcon voluntarily pulled the product from the market. I mentioned earlier on in our conversation, one of the reasons we waited for this moment to acquire Hydrus was because we wanted to see the 5-year safety and efficacy data. And we have seen the safety data, we have seen the endothelial cell data, and we feel very comfortable about where patients with Hydrus on board for 5 years were from an endothelial cell count standpoint.
Australia is a large market out of this, in this neck of the woods where Hydrus has been present for many years. Friend Glenn Burgess, I remember, was key in leading it up for the Australia market. So I was wondering particularly, what are the plans for the Hydrus there?
As we think about the OUS footprint for Hydrus today, Matt, it's relatively small. So 10% of sales come from outside the United States today. And a lot of that was limited due to Ivantis being a small US-based startup. They didn't have the infrastructure outside of the United States. So we're really focused in two areas. One I said is adding new markets and entering new markets with Hydrus, and the other is further penetrating the markets that we are in today. And I think Australia is a good example of one where we can continue to take share, leveraging our global footprint and our footprint in Australia, as well as help to further penetration, have more MIGS procedures done in cataract patients.
Typically, when when we see a product that's launched in the United States, it takes a while to trickle out to the rest of the world. But as you mentioned, in this case, Ivantis is established everywhere with Alcon acquiring the product now. Again, when we're looking at a market like Australia with the Ransco show coming up, is that going to be an important show to essentially, not launch the product, but to show, okay, Alcon is now quite involved with this product? Is that a likelihood to happen at that particular show?
If you call it kind of a coming out, but we will be branding, everything as Alcon and have more folks and more investment in conferences like this where Ivantis, legacy Ivantis couldn't invest quite as much. So yes, you should seeing Hydrus show up bigger under the Alcon name at these conferences in APAC now that we have the Alcon horsepower behind the product.
And finally, Cari, as a MIGS device, where does Hydrus come into play vis-a-vis drops?
So good question, Matt. And for those undergoing cataract surgery, any patient that is on a drop, in my opinion, should be offered a MIGS device, and Hydrus should be part of that consideration set. If we think about standalone procedures, as I mentioned before, if patients are on maximum tolerated medical therapy, 2 or more drops, and their disease is uncontrolled, then they should be offered Hydrus as a standalone intervention. So I think what you'll see is the MIGS space is growing at 12% a year, and a lot of that is because surgeons and patients are getting comfortable and more and more comfortable intervening earlier in the paradigm with surgical interventions because they are less and less invasive than they used to be. And it gets patients off of drops, which we know is a huge compliance barrier for these glaucoma patients who are often have many comorbidities and are taking additional medication. So to be able to get them off drops is one less thing for them to remember on a daily basis.
And actually, Cari, I forgot to mention, I'm an ambassador for Orbis as well. And one of the things that I try to do is help raise awareness about avoidable blindness worldwide. So I'm curious, we've started to hear the conversation surrounding MIGS that will this one day in the developing world start to provide treatment for glaucoma as well. I'm curious from your perspective, is this a product that you could see, if not now, sometime in the future being for the developing world as well in terms of affordability?
Access and affordability is something that's important to us. One of the things we're doing right now with Hydrus is evaluating it for our medical missions program. So to get that product out there for surgeons that are conducting medical missions. And, as I mentioned before, the product's only in 5 markets today. We have 6 markets, including the US. We have a ways to go with our international footprint. But, as a big picture aspirational goal to get this to more and more patients, reduce the severity of glaucoma for patients worldwide is always our objective.
It's a great note to end with. Thank you so much for joining the program, Cari.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Matt.